Welcome, everyone. I hope everyone is ready to enjoy some information about our Master of Public Service 5-year program. We have a great session here ready to share with you information from both staff and some students. I will warn you that we'll probably end up going over on our time. The concept of this was for an hour long because in the past when we had it in our rooms, that's only the time I had before classes came back in. So in order to give us a little bit of extra time for some students to answer your questions, I expect us to probably go till about 6:15, so hang on if you can. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and record this as well so that you guys can go back and answer any other questions at a later time. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to introduce our presenters. I'm Catherine Meyer. I'm Director of Admissions Recruitment here at the Bush School. I have joining me at the very beginning, Matt Upton, who is our Assistant Dean for Career and Student Services. That way you guys can come in knowing exactly what kind of career path that we prepare you for and if this is an option for you. And then at the end, probably somewhere around 45 after, we'll have Savine, Kenya, Creighton, and Riley will join us a little bit later, but our students are here to answer the questions. Note that we tried to get a number of different departments. So we've got some from sociology, poli-sci, and econ joining us today. So the agenda that I had sent to you guys yesterday or today for those late coming into the play here, we are going to cover the career options at the beginning, the academic aspects and how you create your tracks and concentrations, the support systems we have with what we call co-curricular activities, some aspects of the undergrad advising and what you need to think about as you prepare for this program, the application process and some of the statistics that we have of the incoming class, costs and aid, and then we'll roll it over to our students. So in the meantime, I want you to generate some questions. Ashley Treadway is our Assistant Director of Admissions, and she's on here as well and can answer some chat questions while I continue onward. But we'll also open this up at the end so that you can just verbally ask those questions and we can answer. So we'll get started, passing it off to you, Matt Upton. Thank you very much.
Great, thanks, Catherine. Howdy, everybody. Glad to have y'all on here today. I will tell you, one of the challenges as a speaker is to see the CC captioning down at the bottom, and then it says something that you didn't say, and then you worry about how it's interpreted. So hopefully I'll say this all correctly today. I love working with Catherine and Ashley and her team and their team to help get our students in here. And I will tell you that our 3+2 students, I think, frankly, are some of our most impressive students because you're coming in really in the senior year of your undergraduate year, joining a graduate program, and I've never seen any of them miss a beat. So if you apply for this program, just know that you'll be amongst an elite group of students who've come in from Texas A&M from these undergraduate programs into our graduate programs. But I also know that many of you, as you start to think about a degree program like this, your family, your friends, your loved ones, even yourself, you may be thinking, what exactly can I do with a degree in public administration? It sounds funny to me because I've never heard of a Master of Public Service and Administration. So what does that mean? Well, really, if you look at career fields, you're going to look at careers for people getting either a Master of Public Administration or a Master of Public Policy degree. And you'll also hear them referred to as an MPA and an MPP. And that's what other schools call them. So if you're looking at other universities to see what types of degrees they're offering, that's what they're going to be offering. We added the word service into our degree program in kind of homage to President Bush when he was still living, and then that obviously continues on today. But many of you may be thinking, what kind of job can I do? Well, there are analysis jobs or analyst jobs for budgets, programs, policy, intelligence, many of the things that you see here. You're also going to find people who are in coordinator positions. That coordinator position is such a broad term. It could be coordination of communications efforts, policy efforts, human resource efforts within public sector entities, emergency management, public health, nonprofit organizations. You may be serving as a consultant. You may be working for a company like Accenture or like Deloitte, or some others doing government consulting, or Maximus is a big government consulting firm out there. You may be developing policy and protocols for federal agencies or state and local organizations, or for nonprofit organizations that are responsible for implementing the policy. You may be serving as an investigator. You may be taking an interest in international affairs or national security or law enforcement, or those types of things, and applying those. Or you may also be using it for social equity issues. You might be managing organizations. That may not be what you're doing right away, especially as a 3+2 student. You may not move into a manager role, but down the road, you may find yourself in that. Or you could be working as a researcher. If you find that you really enjoy research, or data analysis, big data, those types of things, you can be doing all of those types of things. So there is a lot that you can do when it comes to the types of jobs that our Master of Public Service and Administration degree will lend you for. The next thing you might want to know is, okay, well, so now I kind of have an idea of these titles, but what types of organizations would I work for? And if you look, and we'll talk about this in a few minutes here, but if you look at the employment statistics for our public administration program, you'll see that the three primary areas that our students go into, our graduates go into, are nonprofit organizations, state and local entities, and then federal agencies. And then there's a smattering of other things. Some people will go into the private sector. Some might return to a previous career field, or might choose to do something like Teach for America or Peace Corps or something like that after they finish, and then figure out where they want to go. But those are the three primary areas: nonprofits, state and local government, and federal government. So some of the nonprofits that our alumni have gone to work for and that our students have interned for, you're going to see big ones like the American Cancer Society. You're going to also see local organizations like the Brazos Valley Food Bank. Or you might find Hope for New York. If you want to live in New York City, we have an alum who's worked for a nonprofit there called Hope for New York for a number of years and continues to do good work there. NAACP, so a nonprofit organization, worked to advance the rights and the policy areas that support, obviously, former colored people, but now we would refer to those as African Americans or Black individuals. St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. So you can see that we're looking at things across the spectrum of opportunities for you. So that gives you an idea of some of the nonprofits. Then we shift and look at state and local governments. You can see that we've had alums work for the city of Arlington here in Texas, Houston. They may work for the county, or they may work for a Houston ISD, a large independent school district. You also see that some of our alums are from out of state or have chosen to move out of state when they finished here. So they're working in Maryland or Ohio, Utah. You'll see on the other side of that column there, Washington, Wyoming. And then you'll also see a number of state agencies here in Texas, the General Land Office, and that's not always in in Austin. General Land Office, we actually have an alum who works in the Austin office and one who works in the Houston office. We've had a couple of alums who've worked for Health and Human Services, or you may find that they're working for the Texas State Legislature, either in the House or the Senate. And then if you look at the federal government, we've got some that are working for on the Hill, on Capitol Hill, working for a senator or working for a representative or one of the committees. You'll also see those federal agencies that are going to be pretty familiar to a number of us: the FBI, CIA, Department of Homeland Security, DHS, Department of Justice, or Department of Agriculture. We do have, as I mentioned earlier, people who go to work for Teach for America or the Peace Corps, and all those are federal programs. Those are really kind of preparatory programs, what I would call, a lot of times you might think of those as management trainee programs. You're learning how to manage programs and projects, but you know that it's for a limited period of time. It's for 1 year or 2 years, sometimes for 3 years. And then you can see at the bottom some of our private companies there: Booz Allen Hamilton, Cohn Resnick, both of those are government contractors. Deloitte Consulting, I already mentioned earlier, Accenture as a consulting firm. So those are some of the private companies. And a lot of these companies are starting to do more and more work in the public sector because there are a lot more public-private partnerships. So that gives you an idea of some of those types of things. So how do we go about doing this? Well, we have a staff of people that are dedicated to career and student services. I started at the Bush School 17 years ago as the career services advisor, and I've been here since then. Have the good fortune now of managing Catherine and her team, Ashley and Justin, in recruiting and admissions. We have an assistant director for leadership development, Holly Casper Bauer, who does programs like Myers-Briggs type indicator and Strengths Finder to help you know more about yourself and then learn how you apply what you know about yourself to working in teams or groups for the capstone. And then also how you apply what you know about yourself and what you know about working with others to the workplace. And that's where the internship comes in. So our internship program, all students are required to do an internship the summer between their first and second year. Any internship that you do before you matriculate in the fall of your first year does not count towards that, even if it's a public sector internship. We get that that question quite a bit. So just to clarify that, but we encourage you to find an internship in the public space. And we have a career management system. If you've ever used the Career Center at Texas A&M University, it's a very similar system, but it is specific to the Bush School. So the jobs and internships that are listed in there are specific to public and international affairs. And let's say you're interested in the public administration program, but you wonder, are there opportunities in the international space? The great thing about that is that our career management system, you can see all of those opportunities. You can see them for both the public administration and international affairs area. And we encourage you, if you're interested in those opportunities that may not be traditionally for public administration, we encourage you to apply for them and we'll help you do that. So that's where our staff comes in. I have two other staff members that work with me. Marilyn Santiesteban is our assistant director for career programming. So she does all of our career workshops. This year we moved all of those to online, but all students are required to do 5 to 6 career workshops. And in those, you're going to develop a resume that you can use for your internship search and for your job search. You're going to put together a quality LinkedIn profile and page so that you can have that information out there for people to view. We're also going to work with you on interviewing. How do you interview effectively? We're going to have you do some mock interviews. Also, how do you write an effective cover letter? A lot of times people think, do I really have to include that anymore? We still encourage you to include those things because it's a way of differentiating you from other people. And so that's what Marilyn helps us do. And then Michael Cochran is our assistant director for employer relations, and he is the one who goes out and interfaces with employers who might want to hire our students. So we get a lot of referrals from our former students. We get a lot of referrals from friends of the Bush School. And then we're also well connected with other graduate programs of public and international affairs. And so we share information across the public and international affairs space. And so we hear about opportunities through our affiliation with NASPA, which is the Professional Association for Public Administration, and APSIA, which is the Professional Association for International Affairs. So those are all things that we're doing. If you're curious, as I mentioned earlier, as to where our alums are going, you can see those top 3 employer places or sectors, our state and local nonprofits, and then the federal government, which is a smattering of government contractors, continuing education over the years. But if you have specific questions about any of that, don't hesitate to reach out to me and let me know. Just let me know that you are a part of the 3+2 information session so that I already know what information you have. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, thank you, Matt. We appreciate your time.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I'm going to start talking now about the master's program so that you're familiar with what we are providing our students, regardless if they're 3+2 or just coming in with their degree in hand. So this is a 2-year program, 48 credit hours. So regardless if you're coming in with that 3+2, it is intended to be 3 years undergrad, 2 years grad school, but we have had students do 2 years undergrad, 2 years grad school. No matter what, you will do the 2 years required of our degree. That is the part where you're coming in your senior year and taking our classes for undergrad credit. So you will complete at least the 2-year MPSA classes. You're just allowing our classes to double count for your department credit in whatever capacity that they have deemed that, as general electives, or as department credit through their core courses. Not sure, electives, I believe. But you're using your Master of Public Service tracks and concentrations and the electives that you can do independently of that to build your degree plan. So we have students coming from all kinds of majors and background interest, and that Master of Public Service may or may not be related to what they studied for undergrad. In the case for you guys, it's liberal arts majors, or for the wildlife and fisheries, a little off of that, but you guys are coming in a very related field, and so your interests tend to focus on the policy areas that we do or nonprofits. You're going to get faculty and career advising. So just as Matt talked with his office, we're here to assist you, and we have our in-house resources for you, so you don't have to go get the crowded Texas A&M career office. You've got the Bush School career office to help you. Our faculty are very one-on-one. You meet with them. You're going to be assigned a faculty advisor, so you will have a chance to interact with someone, preferably in your area of interest. You can switch advisors if need be. You just got to get permission for that. But you guys will get help. And so you don't have to know exactly the path you're going when you come into the program. We just need to know that there is interest and fit, and that you're figuring it out as you go along. You just got to do that pretty quickly. So part of that evaluation for you guys is finding out your maturity and readiness for the program, and knowing that we can help you move forward in your career path. So one thing I wanted to mention here is this graduate certificate credential. Some of our students will come in and they'll start the Master of Public Service and then realize, for instance, if they're looking at nonprofit management, that a lot of the courses they're already taken align also with our certificate in nonprofit management. And by applying to the certificate and paying their application fee and getting into that program, you get 2 credentials for the same courses. So you're not necessarily having to pay the higher end classes for what they charge for those certificates if you come in and apply for the Bush School, and as you're taking the MPSA classes in a particular field. Typically that's going to be Homeland Security, nonprofit management, and public management. You can just make sure that you're also a student in that certificate, and you are double counting credit for those courses as well. So it's a way to gain 2 credentials for not a lot of extra work. It's just doing some paperwork on the front end of that, and then working with your advisor to ensure they line up. So you can get your Master of Public Service with a certificate in some kind of area. And we can go into more detail on that as you get ready to apply and have an interest in it. We can give you more information. But you're also applying your studies in a relevant summer internship. So Matt already mentioned anything you've completed ahead of time does not count for hours. This is something you will have to complete as a Bush School student. So you'll work with their office to align one that's of interest to you. That may be staying here in College Station, maybe staying within the state of Texas. But we have a number who are actually heading to Washington, D.C. or internationally. So you'll have some say-so in that. We'll also provide leads for you, but it's up to you to follow through with the ones that are of interest to you. And then you're also completing a 2-semester capstone project. So we are not a writing thesis-based program. We are a capstone project. So it's more of a practical accumulation of the work that you've done and putting that into play with a client. So I'll go over what that looks like and entails in just a few slides forward here. And then you're also taking some elective courses, here on campus primarily, right? It's a little bit different right now due to COVID with some of these Zoom options. But if you do find that you want some flexibility and maybe being in Houston for a semester for whatever reason, you can take some classes online through the web. But remember that those do have an additional cost. They're a $1,500 cost for each class that you do online. So most of our students typically are doing the in-class residency. Now, Zoom is a different component. I'm talking about a purely web-based format. And that only applies to electives here in the Master of Public Service. So when we talk about what you're putting together for your curriculum, you're looking at tracks and concentrations. In the public service program, tracks are required. So when you apply, we're asking what track you're interested And maybe tell us if you know what concentration might be of interest, because I use them in context of trying to find interviewers during our process. But the track, ultimately, you will have to pick within your fall semester. So you can get in and you can change what you had on your application, but by your spring, you have to kind of narrow it down because you're going to start taking classes within your track area. So our three are listed here with public management, public policy analysis, and nonprofits. Now the concentrations are completely elective. A lot of our students do want to zero in on an area because you can develop some depth in that research, but not all of them do. Some take just a hodgepodge of I'll take that class, that one over there. And this can entail some classes outside of the Bush School. So they may want to do, for instance, education policy, and they're taking courses at the Department of Education here at Texas A&M. Same thing with health. There are some Mays business classes that are mixed in often, urban planning. So it really does leave you that flexibility to create the kind of area of interest. If you see something that's different than what we have here, you follow the individually designed concentration. So we do have people who work just with transportation issues. So there's all kinds of avenues you can put together, and that's where being able to bounce those ideas off with your faculty advisor can be very helpful. So the curriculum looks like this. And if you compare this to your degree sheet, that department sheet that I would have sent you, so poli-sci might look a little bit different from someone who's in economics versus someone who's in sociology, because some of them are tied to a track. For instance, I believe the econ is tied to the public policy analysis track. But right here, it's just telling you there's a track requirement. On some of your sheets, I would have said a PPA, here's the exact class you have to take. But your first semester, you don't really get a lot of say-so other than the time frame and the day that you're taking the class and which professor is offering it. But you're going to take these 4 classes. This is a lockstep kind of program. So we only admit for the fall, and you start with these 4 classes. By the time that you go to registration for your semester 2, you're going to start taking a track course, and then you can start taking an elective. And that elective usually falls within the area of the concentrations, but it could be an additional track course just because you're interested in it, and that works too. You do your summer internship, and then you come back and you've got semester 3 and 4 where you're doing your year-long capstone requirement, and then you're taking tracks and electives again. So flexibility in building what you would like to see for your future career. As far as the capstone project, so the year-long opportunity, you are being presented a list of about 8 to 10 projects that are ongoing for that year. These are faculty run, and so they've gone out and found a client, and then they're getting a gist of what does this client want us to work on for them. And so you're doing consulting issues. And then you come back and it's presented in such a way that in the spring, so that when you come in on the fall of your final year, you already have been assigned your capstone project. And you're going to have heard the presentation of what's the name of it, what's the work synopsis of it, who's the client, who's the instructor for it, and when are they being offered. And then you get to rank order your top 3 options. And then our faculty and staff will go through and assign those. Now, sometimes that's going to be more about the nonprofit, and then you're a nonprofit, so that makes them merge really well. But you don't always get your first choice. So just keep in mind, there's a number of different projects that are ongoing that may not be directly related to your area, but you're still going to gain project management experience, the collaboration with your fellow classmates, learning something new about a topic that have an inkling of interest for. So keep an open mind when those do come up. And some of them entail some travel, which we're not able to do right now, but sometimes those do involve going to different cities. I know we've done a few international ones. One of the groups did Mexico City a year or 2 ago and had done a kind of an international NGO type project with it. So some really exciting stuff, and they are highly stressful. I won't smooth that over. These capstone projects is working with fellow classmates usually between 5 to 8 other classmates. And so you have to decide how you're putting together all that work and who's doing what part of the research or the presentation, and keeping that balanced with your other 3 classes. So a lot goes into these capstones. They're very beneficial. You do learn a tremendous amount. But those clients are going to mirror a lot of what we do for the internship. So the state, local, nonprofits, federal agencies. I didn't put a robust list on here just for ease of time, but there are some more listings of these under the capstone projects on the website. So transitioning now for a second, the co-curricular activities. So these are the parts of the Bush School that are outside of the classroom. And Matt had mentioned earlier about the work that Holly Kasper-Bauer does with our leadership program and figuring out your strengths and your weaknesses and how you work and your color, because a lot of the work we do is collaborative. They're not expecting you to be a silo and do all the readings by yourself. Many times they do encourage you to maybe get in a group and split the readings up and discuss them. It's drinking from a fire hydrant, and they know that, and they're having you learn that management aspect of reaching out to fellow classmates and figuring out a way to cover all this material that's thrown at you. It's highly reading intensive here, so just be ready for that. We also have a writing program that is the aspect of a staff member here who's working primarily more on the end of reflections after your internship or working with the faculty during classes. A lot of times she'll do consultant work with you guys during your capstone, making sure that your presentation is coming along nicely and how it's formulated and presented back to the client. But you've got a lot of good information for the writing program that we provide you as you apply, so you know how you can use the resources. The leadership program has a certificate aspect to it that you can also do some additional volunteer work. But it also combines with the writing program and what is called a Medal of Excellence. And that is some additional work that you can do in both volunteering for leading leadership organizations here, some of our volunteer aspects that I have below here. But it's also completing some writing projects that really can be beneficial for our younger students, because you don't have the ability to rely on some of the experience that some of our students who have come back to school can project during an interview. And so you now have an additional aspect of completing some work that is thoughtful, and you're pulling in some internship experiences and providing some answers that you can use for your interviews for career. And in case of completing both leadership and writing, that Medal of Excellence is an actual medal that you wear around your neck at graduation. I would say anywhere between 10 to 20 of our students each year, out of about 180, will actually complete that, because it is strenuous, but it is something that a lot of people do like to see happen for their work, and it's worth their investment. We also have a number of speakers and conferences that are here. Typically, in an average semester, thanks to COVID, it's not average. There are usually about 2 speakers a week here. A lot of those have been converted to online Zoom meetings, but traditionally you'll have them here during the lunch hour or somewhere between that 5 and 7 hour that you can then attend the events that are of interest to you. There's also a number of conferences that are typically held. They're all on hold right now. 2 of those are actually on the international affairs side. But they're still worth looking into and attending when you can. Study abroad. This is an opportunity for all grad students at Texas A&M, but we typically do one, at least, study abroad option in the spring. It usually happens in May, that you sign up for a 3-hour course credit in the spring, and it can be a trip to China that you do coursework during the year and then take the trip and then provide a paper and get your 3-hour course credit, and it can work as an elective. You just have to decide, depending on where that location is and what the work is, if that's something that works for you in trying to do a study abroad here at Texas A&M for some course credit. We also have a number of centers and institutes. So the Center for Nonprofits and Philanthropy is one of our centers that holds a number of guest speakers. You've got the Institute for Science, Technology, and Public Policy that does a lot of collaborative research here at Texas A&M, a lot of it federally government grants. And then you've also got the Mosbacher Institute for Trade and Economics. There's a number of these that are now being put into play, some of them on the international affairs side, but you can find those complete list on the website as well. And I mentioned earlier, it's a very collaborative environment, so you are working with your fellow classmates. It is a very supportive environment in that case. We are not meaning for you to come here and figure it all out on your own. Your classmates are there to help you as well as the staff and faculty. And then for student organizations, I just put a couple of them down here, but the Public Service Organization is a big one that does volunteer work every month out into the community. Student Government Association, if you're heavily involved in that in undergrad, you can continue that work here at the Bush School. We have a number of committees that also need leaders to help run them. And it could be from the fun ones of social and traditions, international connections, working with our international student here, the fundraising, which tends to follow more on that nonprofit area, the green, so environmental friendly, tailgating, got to get back into the football. There's a graduation committee that prepares for that. And then intramurals with our Bushwhacker Athletics. So we are running intramurals right now. So we figure out what students are interested in. So you can sign up for activity just to get yourself out of the classroom and get to know each other in a fun and friendly way. There's also a diversity, equity, and inclusion committee. I think that is now a subset underneath. Well, maybe I think it's on its own now. That's why I took it out from underneath the SGA. Foreign Language and Cultural Society, Alexander Hamilton Society is on the international affairs side, bringing in speakers. European Horizons, Ambassadors Council helps support those speakers who come in. More on the development side, interacting with big name speakers. Okay, so undergrad advising. These are the 5 programs that we're working with the departments. I put this on the sheet. Yes, did you have a question for me?
Yes, so Jasmine had asked a question about, will the 36-hour undergraduate residency requirement need to be completed before the start of the MPSA program? And I'm not sure I am aware of a residency requirement, so I wanted to
I'm not aware
clarify.
of one either. So
Okay.
Jasmine, I'm not sure what that's referencing. I may just have to get you on a follow-up email. If you can shoot that to Bush School Admissions, and I'll look and see exactly what you're talking about. If it's requiring about the fact that you have to be here, I know that we've had a student who transferred into economics, I believe in the fall, and by that following fall was involved in our Bush School program. So I don't know that there's any type of residency requirement. If it's something different than that, we can have a talk. So thank you, Ashley. So as far as the advising part, I put some of this on your notes, but I just want to cover it over with you one more time. You are closely working with your undergrad advisors in your department because you've got to make sure that all your prerequisite work is completed before you come into the program as a Bush School student. So you've got through your junior year to complete any of those basic classes. But you are, remember, setting aside about 18 hours of coursework that our classes are going to double count for in your undergrad area. So you need to save those 18 hours. Now, if you've taken already more classes and you're only going to count 12 hours, that makes no difference to us. You can have done more undergraduate credit. You're just not getting the benefit of the full financial savings you could have had by having 6 more hours count through us, but that's okay. This is more about you making sure that you have those classes saved and double counting what you can, making sure that you are going to be at the 102 minimum requirement. Maybe it's Ag Ec, I think that's 103 hours. But you have to have all those classes done. What we don't want to happen is that you come back to us and say, I couldn't get in this final Arabic 4 class, and it's only offered in the fall when I come into the Bush School, because a full-time load at the graduate level is 9 hours, but you're doing 12 hours for us. So we're already asking you to do more. you now don't want an additional 3-hour class on top of that, and you going, well, I already do 18 hours as an undergrad, I can handle it. It's different. It really has a lot more pressure on you with the reading amount that you do at this level. So you just got to knock out those classes. And you have until the summer of enrollment with us for that following fall to complete those classes. So you're applying somewhere between the 70 and 80-hour mark, but you are enrolling with us around that 102 to 103. And it can be more than that. It just can't be less unless you've gotten special permission from the department head to allow that. You also have to have a minimum GPA of a 3.25. So we've had people apply to us close to that. Maybe they're a little bit below. And we would then do a basic hold on your account to make sure that you do. It's a conditional admit in a way to make sure that by the end of that spring, you do hit that requirement and you're a 3.25. And we've actually had people who didn't, and we had to withdraw our admission for them, and they just continued on poli-sci, econ, whatever program that they were, and they can come to us after the year away, right? You just can't do it as a 3+2 program if your GPA is not above a 3.25. So save your necessary courses as much as you can, set those aside with your advisor, have 18 credit hours as much as you can apply. And then when you're ready to apply, which is on another slide here, you are using an internal application that we have, so it doesn't cost you anything to apply to us. And right now that's almost $90 of an app fee, so you don't have to pay that. So you just saved a little bit more, but you will follow the same requirements, which is on the next slide. And then you're also saving because you're paying undergrad rates. So whatever you would be paying in your department traditionally as a senior, you're going to be paying those same rates because our stuff doesn't kick in until your second year. So at that point, our grad rates, our fees, all of that will kick in your second year with us. And then I'll include scholarship and stuff like that in just a moment. Now, this was something that came up a couple of years ago when Texas A&M and financial aid. It's the way they count classes. There is an issue with those of you who take federal financial aid. So I want you to be aware of a funding issue, and that's on this next slide. There you go. So Bush School students are typically taking 12 hours in the fall and 12 hours in the spring. So that's 24 credit hours. But remember, we mentioned earlier, you can only double count 18 credit hours for undergraduate credit. So because you are a U4, those of you who are taking out federal financial aid, Pell Grants, federal loans, you just kind of have to go through and double check with financial aid what exactly it is you're taking. And it only affects you for federal aid, not the state and institutional aid. You're considered full-time because we can take those 12 hours. That's great. But in the spring, remember, I can only now take 6 hours of yours. So you're now part-time according to undergraduate. And in that case, that affects the amount of financial aid you can receive. So you have to decide if this is going to work for you, or if you can pay that rest of that bill out of your own pocket, because you're not going to be able to get loans for that. So that is an issue that you just have to be aware of. There's nothing we can do to work around that. That is just a part of that financial aid change they made several years ago that says if it is not on your degree plan and counts, and even though it would be on your degree plan because you're a grad student, it doesn't recognize it as an undergrad and you're a U4. So you just have to be aware of that. It doesn't affect all of our students, only a couple of them every year. But you got to know about it ahead of time. So if you're, again, taking state and institutional aid, that doesn't impact you at all because they're counting both fine. And remember, as a second year, you're then converted to G7 status, that what kicks in for you, and you're back to full-time with us because they now recognize it. So I see a question that says, are we encouraged to take 12 hours because it's more intensive than undergrad? Well, it's the fact that the 12 hours is what you need to get in through our program on time. Most grad programs are doing 9. the more practice you can get with 12 hours or 15 hours at the undergrad level, the more you're going to get work to the workload that's going to come and you'll see at the graduate level. It is pretty intense, at least in your first year transitioning for it. And our students will talk about that in just a couple of minutes. So I've got just a couple more slides. The application requirements, just for you to be aware, there's the internal app that costs you nothing. There's a statement of purpose we want from you, an updated resume. Typically, you drop off your high school information. This is the only program that I would allow for you to have a couple of things from high school if you really felt they were relevant and important and didn't have enough other things to make up for it. But 3+2 students, we still think hopefully you've accomplished enough that you can drop off high school for that. So just be aware. The GRE is going to be optional for you because it's only encouraged now for the 3+2 program because of that 3.25 GPA. So it is up to you if you believe a GRE score will help you or not. And then the recommendations, we will need 3 letters of rec. Transcripts, we're going to download. We will need them, but we don't need them from you. We're going to pull them directly from Texas A&M. And if we download it earlier, let's say in the fall, because that's when you apply, we will go back through and pull that transcript in the spring so that we will have your fall grades in front of the faculty at that point. So you don't worry about that at all. We'll take care of it in our timeline. As far as the timeline, remember we put in a push for people to apply by December 15th. That gives us more time over the holiday to work on files and get them ready, because we're going to open them up to the faculty in January. They're going to start reviewing these files and making recommendations of either deny or move forward for interview. February, I'll spend that entire month scheduling interviews for people, either during our interview conference weekend or early. I try not to do any after your date, just because I've got too many other things going on to get ready for the review in March. So February 15th is the hard deadline. So you've got between now and ultimately February 15th, but I'm hopeful you guys will try to do it before the December 15th deadline. If you possibly can, you'd help Ashley and I a lot with that. And then we're going to schedule either Zoom, Skype, phone, or as need be face-to-face. I will tell you, I don't know yet if interview conference weekend is going to be allowed or if there's some modification we can do. But even if we do something more Zoom related, I'm still going to try to figure out a way to keep a lot of these interviews on Zoom during a specific time frame, because usually you're given an opportunity to interact with 2 faculty or a faculty and staff member that are in a related area of what you want to study. And so I want to keep that, just not everybody's up here in the building. And so some of them are not going to want to do face-to-face. Others go, yeah, I'm here, let's do it. So I'll work with you guys through that time period to see how we can set up interviews when it's relevant. And then March, we give admissions and aid decisions at the same time, and I'll cover that in a second. And then you have until April 15th to get us a response if you accept our offer or not. There are awesome instructions located on our website. Just go underneath the admissions section on our web and then pull down by your department. So pull down by MPSA. So keep in mind the admissions committee is composed of both faculty and admissions staff, primarily faculty. They're evaluating your file holistically. So we're looking through all your support materials. We're looking at the interview quality that you just performed with us in February. And then we're ultimately looking at potential, leadership, and for propensity for serving in the sectors that we prepare students for. So is there fit with what you're doing as to what we can help you with? Committee is interviewing double the class size. So we're aiming typically between 80 to 90 MPSA students each year. And then ultimately by the time we enroll the students, somewhere around 10 is our average. Of those will be 5-year students. Now, is every 5-year student admitted? No. Is almost every 5-year student admitted? Yes, because usually you guys already self-select. If you feel you're a good fit for this program and your GPA is above a 3.25, you've already validated it for yourself. And so you come in very confident, you come in well prepared and ready to tackle this program, and we're ready to accept you for that. The ones who are denied is one of two reasons. Typically, it's because they're scraping on the bottom edge of that GPA and there's some issues with it or concerns that can they do the work. And the other part sometimes is maturity and how that interview went. If that does not go well and you've got two different viewpoints putting in that same information, then you can be denied. But most of the time, you guys do extremely well and are some of our brightest students. So apply and keep going at it if you think this is a good decision for you. And then our average GPA is a 3.44 for this year's class. And it's always near that every year. The average age is 24. So you're not all that far off already. You're just getting a year in ahead of most people. And then the class sizes for the classrooms that you'll sit in usually are around 16 students. We max out on most of our classrooms a little over 20 or right at 20. And then they have to force people in after that. But there's also classes that might have 10 students in it. So there's no hiding in a big classroom. This is a discussion-based narrative that you're going to have. So you do need to have that confidence in interaction and be ready for that. So we award scholarships to everyone we admit. So 100% of our incoming full-time MPSA students are going to get something from us. But as a 5-year student, you only get $1,000 in your first year. So just keep that in mind. We're expecting hopefully that you have some undergraduate aid that you can still utilize, maybe a scholarship that you had been granted. So keep applying for those, keep filling in that A&M information to get consideration. But in year 2, we will grant you some level of scholarship that will then kick in. And you'll know what it is in year 1 because it's written in your offer letter. But usually 3,000 or 5,000 is what most of our students get. You can see the percentages there. Last year's incoming class, 42% had a $5,000 scholarship. If you can get over that, then you probably had some pretty strong aspects in your file that the faculty liked and they're granting you more money. But if you come in and let's say that second year you were granted $3,000 and you're bemoaning, wow, that's just not enough. I know I can do more. Apply for a graduate assistantship. They're open to all second-year students, and a number of our 5-year students get them every year. If you get a graduate assistantship, you don't get the Bush School scholarship of that $3,000 amount or wherever it was, but you're usually making a lot more anyway. Graduate assistantships are somewhere around $14,000 per year, right? So just in your second year, you can use that. I will also note that because you're already connected here to Texas A&M, if you can get an RA position or a GA position in another department or another organization here on campus, then you don't have to give up the Bush School scholarship here because you're not double dipping from our scholarship money. So you can have a graduate assistantship in another department if you're lucky enough to apply and get that. But for the Bush School, you can only have a scholarship or an assistantship here in our type of enrollment. And then Matt may have mentioned, I can't remember, the internship scholarships. If you get a summer internship that is unpaid, you can apply for some internship funding to help you get through. And it's based on where you're located. And that is all built upon you attending those career workshops. So more on that can be found, but that's another scholarship opportunity here. So cost in year 1, just figure what you would typically be paying for undergraduate costs. You'd only be doing 12 hours at a time for us. So keep that in mind. It might be even a little bit lower than what you've been seeing on your bills if you've been doing 15 to 18 hours. But you're going to be using your current undergrad rates. And then I'm figuring for year 2, somewhere around $13,500 is what your tuition and fees will be for the Bush School. And that's before our scholarship kicks in. So if you get a $5,000 scholarship, you're looking at closer to $8,500 for the year. So that's where some of that savings comes from. So I've got a number of students. Riley might be joining us a little bit late, but I've got Savine, Kenya, and Creighton and Riley joining us to talk about their student insights. So if you four can unmute yourselves, and then we're just going to start with life as a 5-year student. And we might just want to start for the beginning of the Savine, if you're on here, if you can go ahead and start us off, and we'll just go through this list. And then guys, if there are some follow-ups that you have based on those departments, feel free to write down their emails and address them, and they'll be happy to do it. So I've just put some general questions here. We're going to spend the next 20, 25 minutes just covering your questions and just hearing from students. So I'm going to pass that on now to you guys, and I will mute myself and have some good questions for us.
Okay, hi, I'm Savine Villatoro. I entered with the SOC department. So with the first question, I pursued the 3+2 program because I knew I wanted to be more involved within nonprofits. Within my sociology undergrad, you kind of learn a lot about like the social inequities and social injustices. So this way, I got more information with the process of public policy and more in-depth information about how nonprofits work with government and all of that. So that's one of the things that interested me about the program, and also that I was going to be able to shave 1 year off of getting my master's. Expectations in class. So with being classes are very more writing and reading intensive than my undergrad. So you really have to keep on track with the weekly readings that we have within each classroom. Involvement. I was a student worker my first year. So I was a work study student for Habitat. So I was working around 12 hours a week, and I was in class also. So my involvement within the Bush School was very low because I was either at work or in school, but I was involved within the Bush Board Fellows, which is where you're allowed to be in kind of a board member of local organizations. And I was with the United Way of Brazos Valley, which was a minimum involvement, which was great for me because I was juggling work and classes throughout my first year. Adjusting to grad format. It was a big adjustment because most of my friends were still undergrad. I think in class, you can notice how there's a variety of age in classrooms. And so people that are coming back from the workforce, people that just graduated, it's very different. So I like the diversity of it. You get to learn from different students that are at different points in their life. How many hours studying? I would say daily I would try to time manage around 2 to 3 hours or 4 sometimes, depending on the workload of the week. So not every week is heavy reading and heavy writing for each class. So you kind of have to manage the workload of each class so that you can adjust your study hours for that. So that's what I did. And work internships. So internships were a little hard this year, especially because of COVID. So many, the internship I had got rescinded because they had a hiring freeze going on. But I did do research with one of the faculty members in I think it was Dr. Eric Lewis. So I was working with him throughout the summer, and that was my internship. But this semester, I also am an intern for the Episcopal Health Foundation, which now if you can get an internship in the fall to count for your summer because of the COVID pandemic. So that's what I'm doing right now. And I'm also a GAR student. So as you know, your second year, you can get a graduate assistant researcher, which means you do research with one of the faculty workers. So this year is a lot more research heavy for me. But yeah, through there, I actually networking for internships, the career services and the employment employment presentations that they have weekly really help me a lot. You have a lot of people that are interested in Bush students, and you can attend. They usually give you lunch when we were allowed to go in class, but now it's through Zoom. But it's a lot of people are interested in Bush students, and that's how I was able to find the internship with the Episcopal Health Foundation, was through the career services that Dr. Uppen is in. So an advice I wish I knew when I started, have study groups and reading groups. The reading is very heavy. Sometimes you'll be reading like 2 or 3 articles that are like 15 pages long, and through like the first page you zoom out, and it helps to have like a group of people where you can separate the reading and you catch up each other on each part of the reading. But yes, it's very, I noticed that it was very more reading heavy and writing heavy than my undergrad. But if you get a good study group and a good reading group, like, you won't be too far behind.
Hey, Savine, before you head out, let me give you, there's one question here that says, did the courses you took in undergrad prepare you for the master's program? So were there some courses in particular that you felt were a better preparation?
So I had in sociology, you can choose whether you have a BS or a Bachelor's of Science or a Bachelor's of Arts. I chose a Bachelor's of Science, so I had taken some statistics course in my undergrad, and that really helped me a lot for the quantitative or the statistical courses that I have my first year, and the economic ones. Even though I was a sociology major, I had a lot of math classes like calculus and statistics and stuff like that. And that really helped me going into the first year.
Okay, thank you. So hang on for a minute, because I'm going to go now to Kenya and Creighton. If the both of you can kind of go through those questions just one at a time, because you're both poli-sci. So now that Savine has kind of covered what her experience was coming from sociology, can you two cover your experience through the political science in preparation? So why did you pursue the 3+2? Just work your way with both of you on the same question. And Creighton, we'll start with you because I see you on. And then Kenya, if you'll just go in right behind him, just both of you unmute and just talk after a pause.
All right, I'll go first. Can y'all hear me? Okay. So I chose the 3+2 program because I kind of knew what I wanted to do in my career. Even before I came to college, I've always wanted to work in city management and work within local government. If y'all have ever seen Parks and Rec, ever since I saw that in high school, I was like, okay, I want to do that. So I kind of fast-tracked what I wanted to do in the polls. In my undergraduate as a polls major, there was kind of more emphasis on the federal and international side of governance. And I saw that the Bush School had a program for local and state governance, and that's kind of what drew me towards going through the process of becoming a 3+2 student.
Hi guys, my name is Kenya Robinson. I'm actually a public policy analysis track, analytical methods, and cybersecurity concentration. I did the BA program coming through the 3+2 program. Why did I choose the 3+2 program? I wanted to do a career where I got to really work in consulting when it comes to governments, nonprofits, and the private sector. And I think my internship this past, and we'll probably talk about my internship later, but my internship this past summer, I was able to work for AT&T and their corporate social responsibility team. And basically I worked with nonprofits, and I also worked with government officials to decrease the digital divide, which is the gap between people who have access to the internet and those who don't. So I think the 3+2 program was really a great way for you if you aren't really sure you want to be involved in government, but there are so many different ways that you can, I think, influence the public policy process and make a difference, versus if you want to work for a nonprofit, or if you want to work for the government, or even if you want to do any like social responsibility, work on public-private partnerships in a private sector role. So that's why I chose the 3+2 program.
So Kenya, while you're still on, go ahead and talk also about any expectations in class, the involvement you have been able to do as a student here.
Yes, so I'm actually part of the Bush School Ambassadors Council, and I'll put a link in there in the chat just so you guys can have a little bit more information on that. I think Ms. Meyer mentioned it earlier. We usually host a lot of events when there are speakers and donors that come. This is actually my first semester being involved. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to do a lot of the fun events just because of COVID, but usually, like let's say they have donors in Houston, the Bush School ambassadors will come and serve donors in Houston and really just conversate with people, get to know some of the people there, and just be a good representative of the Bush School. You have these nice Bush School blazers. I don't know if you ever saw them, like if you were ever at the Bush School, but it's just a pretty cool opportunity just to represent the legacy of President Bush through that. And then also I'm a part of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and we also host a lot of events like Hispanic Heritage Month, Black History Month, just to really increase diversity and equity and inclusion and foster those conversations at the Bush School. So those are the main things that I'm involved in. As far as responsibility, so I came in 2016 is when I was a freshman at TAMU, applied in, what is that, got in 2019, fall 2019 is when I started at the Bush School. So even though I was really involved more so my first year with diversity, equity, and inclusion, I still wrote for the battalion. I still wrote for Aggie Bound magazine, and I also had a job. So I was very involved, like undergrad and grad. And I also, like I said, I also had a job, and I feel like I also had a lot of good relationships with my peers. As far as responsibility, I don't know if that goes into studying, but I think as far as studying, like choose to study for 40 hours a week. That's just my choice. I've heard a tip, I think it was from one of my professors, you're taking, each class is 3 hours. So try to do maybe 36 hours a week. It really depends on your course load, but at least I would say try to study at least 3 hours a day for each course. Or not, if you can't do a day, 3 hours, what am I trying to say? Like anywhere from, I would say 6 to 8 hours a day. It sounds like a lot, but honestly, the amount of reading that you're gonna get and the workload that you're gonna have, you're gonna feel more prepared the more reading, the more studying you spend. So that's what I choose to do as far as my studying. It was a long-winded answer.
Okay. All right. What about you, Creighton?
So I'll work my way backwards. As far as involvement goes, I was heavily involved in the International City Management Association last year, and now I'm serving as the president of that. We kind of focus on state and local government and connecting English school students to that. I also, in my first year, was involved in the Liberal Arts Student Council on campus. Since I was a polls major, I kind of did that the 2 years before I became a Bush student. And so I kind of made sure to be involved both at the undergraduate level and the graduate level. A lot of my friends are in SGA, and I highly recommend that and all the other different sorts of extracurricular activities that the Bush School promotes. As far as expectations in class, I would just highly recommend to be ready for a lot of reading, like everyone else has mentioned before me. It's a lot of group projects and a lot of staying on top of tasks and being able to be flexible and have time management and all those sorts of things. And I would also highly recommend, even though it's kind of Zoom university right now and it's tough to get that social interaction, just being involved with as many things as you can. 2 years is a pretty short period in the grand scheme of things, so just make sure you're as connected as you can be while you're here.
So I want to kind of skip through because I know you can still talk about how many hours studying, Creighton, but what about any type of internships or networking opportunities, and then finish with advice that you wish you knew when you started, and then Kenya, go after him.
So as far as internships go, I applied for a couple of them fell through. I ended up doing a internship for a city manager in San Antonio that I shadowed him for a week 2 years prior. So that networking opportunity through that shadowing event kind of helped me there. But I would definitely go to as many presentations as you can and apply to a wide variety of organizations, whether that be in the public sector or the private sector or nonprofit, if you prefer to go that way. I think networking is definitely a big aspect of internships and getting careers after our time at the Bush School. And I would highly recommend to go to, and once conferences start back up, hopefully that'll be sometime soon. But going to as many Zoom meetings or as many formal events as you can definitely helps in getting those internships and networking. And as far as advice I wish I knew when I started, just making sure that you have, like we mentioned earlier, time management skills and the ability just to say yes to things that you want to do or you're even slightly interested in. You don't want to look back at the end of your 2 years and be like, oh, I wish I did this and that, but I was too busy studying or reading for this class. So yeah, that's the advice I wish I had when I started.
Yeah, just repeating what Creighton said, advice I wish I knew when I started. Definitely time management and the fact that you do have time to be involved in student organizations. One of my professors said, part of your experience at the Bush School is not only taking classes, but also being involved in those extra service opportunities, going to the events that the Bush School puts on. They have a lot of great events where they invite speakers just to talk about prominent policy issues that we're facing today. So you may seem like when you see it all on paper, it may look like a lot, but you definitely do have time to manage, your classes and to also be involved in those extracurricular activities. So that's definitely one thing I would encourage everyone to do. I just see a lot of my friends that have graduated this past year in 2020, like, oh, I wish I would have been more involved in this. I was just so focused. I was so worried about my grades. So part of your experience at the Bush School is definitely being involved. So I would encourage you within reason to just also get involved and be involved in as much stuff as you can.
That's great advice. So Riley, I see that you're on and we haven't heard from an econ student. So you don't have to cover all these questions that are here with life as a 5-year student, but if you want to address a couple of them, I'd love to hear from you. And then we're going to open it up to some questions where people can either submit them via the chat or just open up your mic and just ask the question and we'll figure out who can answer it. So Riley, it's on you.
Okay, I'll just kind of hit a main point here of why pursue the 3+2 program. Not only is it also, hello everybody, I got on late. I'm glad you're all here. You're interested. That's amazing. So it's such a financially responsible decision to go ahead and just get your master's. And I know with the econ undergrad, it's very different in the fact that in economics, you're kind of just studying for a test every time. If there's an econ student in here, it's like you just take tests. You're not writing papers. You're not really reading as much. And then all of a sudden, like everything flips in the Bush School and you're reading a lot and you're writing essays and you're still taking like quantitative methods and like intro level micro, but it just makes you more versatile and ready for a workplace that an econ undergrad wouldn't necessarily like get you to that point of readiness to go out and like work. Another thing I think Creighton mentioned is working on a team is huge, and you work in teams all the time. It's so incredibly important to be able to like work on a team no matter who is on that team. So I've only been in this program for how long have school been happening? Like 10 weeks now. And I've already learned that so much. And it's also been a big blessing because I feel like I'm ready to take on being in a social like work environment. Also, something I wish I knew before I started, everyone at the Bush School is on your team. Whenever I was thinking about this program, I remember walking into like Catherine Meyer's office and being like, hi, I'm a sophomore. I'm so sorry, my phone's ringing. Didn't mean to do that. So sorry. I remember walking into Catherine Meyer's office. Oh my gosh. My friend doesn't know how to say no. And being like, oh my Nanta. Okay, I'm so sorry. Going into her office and just being like, how do I do this? And from day one, she was like, this is what you need to do. I'm here to talk to you. I'm here to help you. Same thing in the Bush School. You reach out to any professor, anyone, and they're willing to talk with you and help you. And it's just this great community of people that are there and on your team to support you. And even though it is a transition coming from economics and there is much heavier like reading and a workload, there's so much support in that it's so doable and so worth it in the end of coming out with a master's degree. So if anybody has other questions, please feel free to like email me. I'd love to talk to you about it.
So I'll go ahead and say we've got probably about 5 minutes. So if you do want to unmute yourself and ask the question, if you think you can direct it to one person and let them answer, or 1 or 2 people, but I don't want all 4 of you to try to cover it or we'll never get through it. So at this time, I'm going to be quiet. If you've got something to say, just unmute and ask the question. Okay, while I'm waiting, I do have a question that came through chat. It says, would you say it's realistic to work a part-time job while enrolled in this 2-year master's program? Savine, I believe you talked about it for sure. I don't know if the others, I can't remember, in Kenya, you're just involved in everything, so I know you did too. But for you two specifically, what would you say about someone looking at working part-time while taking classes? Savine, start with you.
It is possible. I mean, I had to work a part-time job because, you know, I still have bills to pay. I can't not pay them. But it's possible. It's not that difficult. I didn't struggle that much, and my grades didn't suffer as much at all in anything because I was still able to get a guard position my second year. So if anything, it speaks that it's doable. You just have to manage your time better.
And that's what I was going to say. It definitely is a time management thing. You just got to find the balance. And what about you, Kenya?
Yes, definitely. I would say it's definitely manageable. One thing I will say, I was grateful that I had an employer on campus that was very understanding that, like, hey, I'm in a master's program. There are some weeks where I may need to cut back. I work 25 hours a week. There may be some weeks where I need to cut back 25 hours and only work 20. So I would just make sure that you have that understanding with your employer, like, hey, I'm a student first. There may be one week where you're drowning in a group project and you need to cut back some hours. But I think that would be the biggest thing that I would focus on if you're going to get a part-time job, is make sure that you have an employer that's understanding of the fact that you are a student first.
That's an excellent point to make. All right, there's another question at all? Oh, here's another one. Can students who have enough hours after their second year of undergrad apply a year early? So completing the whole program in 4 years total. So this comes to back what I said at the very beginning. We have had students who have been undergrads for 2 years, bringing in so many hours of pre-AP classes or what have you, summer work, and then coming in and doing our programs for 2 years. So yes, it is possible that that can happen. You just can't speed up the Bush School portion of it. It is going to take you the full 2 years on that.
I can attest to that. I did my undergrad in 2 years, the undergrad portion of the 3+2 program, and I will have completed everything within 4 years. So it is possible.
It is possible. Okay, does anybody want to just unmute and ask a question?
Hi, Catherine.
Hello. Ask away.
Toriana, thanks team for presenting, making it real life on how this 3+2 works. I didn't want to take it for granted that maybe some have never worked with a blind or visually impaired student. So my question is kind of general. How inclusive are these courses for a student that may be blind or visually impaired?
So I'm not as familiar with the way classes are run. I know that working with disability services at Texas A&M can certainly assist with that. Are any of you four want to unmute and maybe talk about anything that you've experienced in classes and being able to work with students?
I will say one, just going back with what Ms. Meyer was saying about disability services, that Texas A&M overall is very inclusive as far as working with either the faculty or their staff. I can't remember what specific disability I did have one classmate that had, but I know whether it was making accommodations to how the lecture was delivered or working in groups. Like I said, I know it was more of like a private issue with that student, but overall, from what I know in the relationship that I have with that student, they were able to matriculate through the program and still graduate and go actually into some nonprofit work, which is really cool. So I definitely would say that the Bush School does a really good job of accommodating students that need those accommodations.
Thank you. The first semester you said are primary standard courses, right? And
Correct.
how, if someone's to happen, which I've experienced, not some classes not being accessible, and I think we've answered a little bit of that. But how does a Q drop work, or how do you, if you had to drop a course for whatever reason it is, how do you double back to that course, or is that possible?
And I'm not sure if the students would know this directly. And you're getting into the part where I think in individual basis, you're probably better off talking to the department, because
Okay,
I
that's
don't work with that part either through my role in admissions. It's more of a departmental, working with their staff and faculty and figuring out how classes are going to work again. But I don't know about Q drops, unfortunately. Sorry.
Thank you.
Oh, Ms. Meyer, I was going to say Q drops, from what I do understand, let's say if you had to Q drop a class, depending on if it's a core, like a core class that you need, you would be able to have that opportunity to take that class again with that same faculty member, especially if it's a class that you need, like you have to have it to graduate. I know that I didn't have to Q drop a course again. Like I said, another student that had an issue that needed to Q drop a course for a personal family matter, she was able to still come back and take that class. And I think she's also still able to graduate with us in May, I believe. So again, I think it's just the conversations that you should have with faculty. And I think one of the things that I really like about the Bush School, if you just come to them with your situation and say, hey, I'm having trouble doing this, or I need help with this, they are very accommodating, which I really love about our school.
Appreciate it.
Being
Thank
from
you.
a smaller program, right? They're here for your success and they want to be here to back you up. It doesn't mean that they're going to say yes to everything that comes through, but if it is accommodating and can work efficiently and through the program approval, then they're all for it. They're wonderful to work with. I'm noticing our
had a-
time. Yeah, go ahead. But I want to take one or two more questions.
Okay.
And so if you can stay on for a few more minutes,
Sure.
we're going to try to wrap up. But
So I
Jacob,
just
what's
had a
it?
quick question for Kenya. I heard that you wrote for the battalion. That's awesome. I did a lot of journalism in high school. Did some policy work in the Capitol trying to get new voices passed. And I love writing. And so my question to you is, I'm sure that you know what it's like having to work on deadline, to manage like 2 to 3 stories at the same time. What would you say is the essay workload per month or per week for Bush? I'm sure it's high, but in your experience of managing as a writer or whatever you did, did the skills that you learned with journalism kind of like easily transfer over, is I guess what I'm getting at.
That is a great question. I think they did, as far as meeting deadlines. What I will say, what was a little bit harder coming from the journalistic world, where you're used to writing like short 500, 600 word pieces. You know, I think for the most part, I had about, I think my first semester, I would say 4 to 5 essays a month, but these essays are very analytical and they make you think, versus like going to journalism, you're really compiling a little bit of notes and what other people have said and making it to an objective story, versus when you
Right.
have to sit back and you have to analyze something. So I think that's the thinking part is always the hard part. As Dr. Kerr, you guys will meet her, she's amazing. As Dr. Kerr will say, the thinking part is always the hard part. So I think one of the mistakes I made my first semester is approaching it like it was a journalism story. And I would encourage you not to do that. Do that in the sense that, yeah, you have to be on time, but make sure you are thinking, and I think that goes for anybody, no matter what your background is, you'd have to sit down and think about how this theory applies to real life or whatever policy that you're analyzing. Like, you really have to think. So I think make sure you give yourself enough time to do that thinking part. And then of course, keep on track of your deadlines, but there's no point of you turning it in on time, but you didn't think about what you wrote. which I feel like I did in one of my essays. Yeah, I didn't
Mm.
really think it through. So I think that would be my best advice for that. Great question.
Thank you.
And I think sometimes we end up learning more from our failures and how to correct it and avoid it the next time. But again, faculty are going to work with you for that. So we have time for maybe one more question, and then we're going to shoot it down. If you do have another chat question you want to send our way, or you can email the students directly, feel free to do that as well. But anybody, one more question? Okay, yeah, go ahead.
I have a
Go ahead.
question for Kenya, please. Being in a political science undergrad and then going into like the nonprofit, public-private partnership area, what kind of classes did you take to fill in electives and stuff in undergrad that like helped you prepare for that? Or would you recommend to help prepare for that?
That's a good question. And honestly, again, I will say like when I first came to really TAMU and then the Bush School, I really had no idea what I wanted to do. It was really my internship that helped me figure out that that's kind of the way I wanted to go. But political research methods is a good course. I don't know if that course is still offered. Honestly, and I don't think you should focus too much on your undergrad courses, like what you need to take to prepare for that, because by the time you get to the Bush School, all of those courses that you took in your first semester, nonprofits, public service, economic analysis, and then, when you transfer over to your next semester in your first year, they will prepare you if you want to go that public-private partnership route. So I would definitely not focus too much on, oh, what do I need to take in undergrad to prepare me for it? Because I feel like by the time you're done with your first year, you will be prepared for your internship. So I think political research methods is the only one I can think of, and maybe like a basic government class. So I'm sure that everybody has to take, but don't focus too much on undergraduate courses. If anything, just make sure you focus on, I guess, improving your writing skills before you come to the Bush School. But yeah, great question. Thanks.
All right, thank you.
And anything else, I know that earlier Sabine had mentioned any type of quant preparation that you can do with microeconomics, statistics, working in groups, any of that's going to prepare you well. But I don't know that there's any particular one or two courses that are going to put you a step above anybody else. It's really just taking all those skill sets and just keeping an open mind and working hard, because this program is going to test you for sure. So I want to thank everybody for attending today. Thank you guys, student-wise, for coming in and answering these questions. I have provided your email addresses, so just be sure to keep an eye on that and answer anyone. And if there's something that is a little more specific that you can't answer, shoot it back my way. I'm at bushschool.admissions@tamu.edu. Ashley and I are here for answering those generic questions, or even just specific ones about a GRE or whatever is on your mind. And then I do want to put a plug in. We do have some more upcoming events. We've got some online webinars that are coming up. The co-curricular, we kind of covered a little bit really quickly today, but I'll go into more detail on that next Wednesday. And then Matt Upton's going to come in and do a really in-depth view of the career development for our students. And then I'll cover graduate financial aid and how that works on that final one in November. But we also have some past webinars that are available on the website. And then if you find out you've just got a couple of questions you want to shoot out to either a student or to staff, we've got some Zoom Q&A hours. They run on these days that are listed here for an hour starting at noon. So just log in and we just bring you into the room, and you are welcome just to shout out your question there. It's usually not personal stuff. It's just a generic question that a couple of people can answer back and forth. But we're here to help you with that. And Dylan, my GA, who is a grad assistant, is also going to be on that with us. And he is actually an MPSA student, so he can give you perspective as well. So join us if you can for that. But I want to thank you for your time. And for those econ majors, if you're signed up for the MIA version, I will see you tomorrow at 5 o'clock, and we'll run a very similar format. So thank you guys for coming. Appreciate it. Have a good evening.
Thank you.